The title of that song is Now More Than Ever, and boy, do the Bears need a victory now more than ever. Welcome to the Barely Pregame Show. This is Michael Halatek, along with my co-host, Ivan Vargas. Ivan, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Bears had another tough one, lost their second straight, 26-23 to the Saints last Sunday, and they started well. They were up 10 points, and all of a sudden they had a little bit of a meltdown defensively to end the first half, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the absolute meltdown of the third quarter.
Yeah, it looked better. It looked better for a stretch, and then all of a sudden there was an event that took the wind out of their sails. It really did. I know we're going to get into it a little bit later, but the Javon Wims incident, I felt like the Bears were finally finding some rhythm on offense. I felt like the defense was doing what the defense does, and they were going to find a way to win late in the game against a good team. But when you have a play like that, it caught so many people off guard. It caught the entire team off guard. And, everybody exuded so much emotion into what the hell was going on over here that when they came back to playing on the field, it looked like they were flat. It looked like they just came out of the locker room. They just started the game coming out of the locker room and just didn't warm up or anything. It looked completely flat, completely off their game after that. And I think that was a major factor in them losing it down the stretch.
This started at the end of the first half. The Bears, when Pagano came to the Bears a couple of years ago, one of the things that he said, and I don't know if you were at the Bears, the 100-year celebration in Rosemont last year in June, but one of my friends, and hopefully he'll be on our show here soon when we open up at Halatek Hall going live a week from Tuesday. Greg Braggs actually asked Pagano what his plans were to with our defense, and his exact quote was, "Wreak havoc." And there was no havoc wreaked at the end of the first half last Sunday, and that bend but don't break defense that they play has killed them at the end of the first half a lot so far this year. And of course, that ended up getting the Saints back into the game, gave them a little momentum. The Bears did nothing in the third quarter again. So all of a sudden, instead of it being they were up by 10 points, 13-3. Now it's tied. And then, of course, the Wims incident happened. And before you knew it, they were down by 10.
Yeah, you know what? Something reeked, and they weren't wreaking havoc. It was reeking because it was bad defense. It was reeking because it stunk. You can't go ahead and allow a guy like Drew Brees, a Hall of Fame quarterback, the freedom to attack at will. The freedom to attack well. You gave him all the space in the world. At least challenge the man. You went ahead and this bend but don't break idea. Yeah, I mean that's nice against bad teams, but against good teams like good quarterbacks and playmakers, you have to force pressure. You have to find a way to get the quarterback on the ground and have him be forced into a bad decision. There's no need to back off at that point. And that's what, that was one of the biggest things that it was one of the biggest question marks is, Chuck, why are you still playing afraid? Your defense can change this game around with one play. Why don't you allow them to do that? And I get you're compensating for a bad offense, but sooner or later, this team needs a play to be made.
We've talked about this often. Both the offense and the defense right now are, they have to play perfect games in order to win, especially on offense. And obviously we're not seeing it on offense. And I think you're right. The Bears defense, if they make a mistake, and it leads to a touchdown, that's something that they're not being able to come back from. This is not a team that, even though they have done well coming back, their fourth quarter, I wish we could play just the fourth quarter of every game because we'd be 7-0 right now, but we're not. Then that's a problem. Let's go back. There's a couple other issues that I want to talk. Obviously we talked about the meltdown of the defense at the end of the first half. We talked about the Wims meltdown, and we've talked about this earlier in the year, is turning touchdowns into field goals. That is going to kill this team when we get into the red zone, we have to score touchdowns and not settle for field goals. And we were in the red zone a couple of times, and here's my issue. Where the hell is Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham when the Bears are in the red zone? You've got probably two of the best red zone threats that the Bears have had in a decade. Mm-hmm. And they're not on the field. That's just ridiculous.
I feel like it's, you said a decade. Yeah, I believe since Marshall and Jeffrey. You know what I mean? Two big bodies that could just box somebody out, go up for the ball, put it anywhere, and anywhere close, and they're gonna go after it. So there was a couple of times where I saw Jimmy caught a touchdown pass, I believe, or he drew a pass interference. Excuse me, he drew a pass interference on a linebacker, and I'm like, but why didn't you attack him earlier when he was one-on-one with a cornerback? Like the cornerback's not gonna. We've seen Jimmy out jump cornerbacks this year in the Tampa Bay game. He had an amazing catch off a cornerback. Why aren't you challenging these defenses, Matt Nagy? Why are you? It's like you have these gadget plays that are supposed to break big. You don't have plays that challenge defenses. You have plays that finesse defenses into losing yards. You don't have plays that actually go out there and get you yards. Plays that are meant to get 5, 10, 15 yards in the passing game. You don't have those plays. You have to rely on a pretty much a wishful running game, a hopeful running game week after week, where David Montgomery is getting just destroyed week after week in the backfield. And then, when it comes time for a big play to be made on fourth down, you're going ahead and putting in a wide receiver. I just feel like you need to go ahead and challenge this defense today. You haven't been challenging teams as much, and I get you have bad pass blocking, but you had to find a way, Matt Nagy. Good coaches make adjustments for their players. And I haven't seen any great adjustments coming from Matt Nagy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So today we play the Tennessee Titans in Nashville. On the way down, Latavius Simmons tested positive for COVID, so he's on the COVID list. Bush is on the COVID list. We know that Whitehair is on the COVID list. So is their swing tackle. COVID has hit the Bears hard this week.
Yeah, it was crazy when I saw that. It was like a little over an hour ago, or maybe less than an hour ago, where I saw that update, and I'm just like, it's impossible. Like, how do you? What if it were to happen game day? You know what I'm saying? What if that were to happen game day? Who are you gonna like? You're gonna have to cancel that game, or are they gonna forfeit? I doubt they would allow a forfeit. But what are you gonna do then? You're just gonna usher in guys from the practice squad right away on game day? You can't do that. You got to. I don't know what happened. I don't know how it got caught. I know it could be spread any which way, but it's just weird that Cody Whitehair, who wasn't playing, caught it first, and then all of a sudden everybody else has it. It's like, what was Cody doing? Where were you at? I mean, he might not have been doing anything. He might have been just at home. But it sucks. It really sucks, and it's been difficult all year, and it just gets more difficult for the Bears. I just hope that whoever they put out there, whoever's going out there today, they find some – I know it's not going to start off great, but I hope they find some type of camaraderie, some type of cohesiveness amongst that line, because the Bears need some type of help. They need help desperately.
I think you'll see a little bit of max protect early in the game and let Mooney run down the field with a double move and just have two wide receivers out, have two tight ends, have one running back, have those tight ends in to help block, do a little play action to the running back, have Mooney do his double move and get the ball downfield to him. They need to exploit the middle of the field. So that'll be interesting. The inactives just came out. So their third most productive, the Tennessee Titans, third most productive wide receiver, Humphreys, is inactive. Jadeveon Clowney is inactive, and their starting tackle, Isaiah Wilson, is also inactive today. The Bears inactives, of course, you could probably name them, but with Whitehair was put on the COVID list, so he doesn't count. But Trubisky, Mustipher, Jenkins, Roy Robertson Harris, which is a hit to our defensive line, and Travis Gibson are our 5 inactives for today. So
I'm looking. I really want to see Travis Gibson. I really want to see another. I know they're doing all right with the pass rush now, and there's no need to really rush a young guy. I want to see what he could do. Like they were talking about him, being one of the steals, and I have yet to see him or Valor.
Well, let's hope that we see something from Mac and Quinn, because they really need to step up today. Tennessee and the Bears, believe it or not, they started 10-1 combined. Mm-hmm. Tennessee was 5-0. The Bears are 5-1, and all of a sudden now they've lost 4 straight. So this is a must-win for both teams. Derrick Henry, as I mentioned before, maybe I mentioned it before we went on air, he leads the league in rushing yards in the fourth quarter. And Ryan Tannehill is completing 67% of his passes. He's thrown 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, but he's been sacked 8 times in 7 games. So he's only getting sacked about just a little bit more than 1 time per game. So that's kind of the tale of the tape. We're going to take a quick message from our sponsor, TickSplits, and when we come back, we're going to go over the keys to the game, our history corner, and of course the pick will be in at the end of the show. So we'll be right back after a message from TickSplits.com.
I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TickSplits?
Who?
TickSplits. They don't gouge you with crazy fees. The price they advertise is the price you pay, plus a small delivery fee.
Never pay service fees again. Go to TIXBLITZ.com today. TickSplits.com. Guaranteed seats, low prices. That's TickSplits.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere.
That's it, TickSplits.com, and use promo code BEARS. That's capital, all caps, BEARS, and you'll save 5% on your entire order. There are no service fees at TickSplits.com, so make the switch to TickSplits. Ivan, keys to the game. This is, obviously the Bears have to survive COVID. That's, kind of I guess a fourth key to this week's game. But, key number 1, at least for me, is the makeshift offensive line has got to be able to produce. They've got to create some holes for the running game, and they've got to be able to have some sort of an effective running game so their play action passing can work. Because when Foles has been, I hate to say deadly, but Foles has been very accurate when he's had the time to throw the ball. The problem has been he's usually got 2 or 3 defenders closing in on him every time he fades back to pass. So that's key number 1. Which key number 2, which leads right into this, Foles has to have a good day. Nick Foles has got to have a good day. I don't care if they run to set up the pass or if they pass to set up the run, but if the passing game is ineffective like it was in the third quarter last week, the Bears are dead, because they have got to be able to carry a lead into the fourth quarter. If they can get the Tennessee Titans into a one-dimensional offense late in the game, taking Henry out of the game, the Bears have a great chance to escape Tennessee with a win today. And, of course, number 3 is you've got to force Tennessee to beat you with Tannehill. You've got to be able to take Henry out of the game. Now, that's tough to do. I think he leads the league. He's got 775 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground this year, so he's averaging over 110 yards per game. He's averaging almost 5 yards per carry. But if they can contain Henry early and get our offense in gear, and hopefully our defense can take the ball away a couple of times to shorten the field for the Bears offense, which is the story that we saw in 2018 for this Bears team. If we can shorten the field We can get up on Tennessee. Look what happened a couple of weeks ago. Tennessee was 5-0, and everybody in the world thought that they were just not going to be able to do anything. And then they turned around and absolutely buried Buffalo. When Buffalo, I don't know if they took them softly, they were looking ahead or thought it was going to be an easy win because they were out of action and not practicing for 2 weeks. And all of a sudden they're undefeated, but then they lose a close one to Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And then last week they lose to a 1-win Cincinnati team.
Well, that was their one win.
that was just absolutely, and they lost by more than 2 scores, or at least 2 scores. So, they're not playing the ball that they played. And I don't know if it was the emotions of COVID getting to them and the high and the low of the Buffalo game, and then followed by the Pittsburgh fallout where they were losing by 3. They had a 40-yard field goal and it just faded wide right. And they came out flat against Cincinnati, and look what happened. So they're not playing their best football either. So this might be a good time to catch the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I'm just going to go into my keys because actually I want to get to that, talk about that second key of yours. It goes right into with my first key is protect the football. And I honestly, that's square on the shoulders of Nick Foles. Nick Foles had a horrible interception last week against the Saints, throwing to I believe the left side of the field, and it was nowhere near anybody but the cornerback who made a play on the ball, ended up intercepting the ball, and the Saints are going the other way. We can't have that at all. There can't be a brain fart in your progression, or you can't have a panic mode where you're just trying to desperately throw away the ball. It can't be. You can't give the other team another chance at scoring when your team can't score the ball at will itself. You could barely score touchdowns. You know what I mean? You could score field goals. We know that. But you could barely score touchdowns. So it'd be interesting to see if you could go ahead and protect the football while you're throwing in the air, because Nick Foles has just been erratic at times. It's been Trubisky-esque, and there's been questions on whether Mitch Trubisky would be better suited right now or to play quarterback or not. Some people are calling for Mitch to come back. I don't know if I want all that, but it's on Nick Foles' shoulders, like you said, to have a good day. You need to protect the football. And for number 2, like I said, challenge them downfield. Don't shy away. You need to get the run mix in, but you need to challenge them downfield. We've seen Buffalo challenge them downfield. We've seen multiple teams challenge this team downfield and find success. You need to challenge them downfield. I know it ties in with pass protection, which is going to be interesting to see today on how the Bears can actually pass protect. But if you could find some rhythm, you could find a way, and then take your shot. Take your shot when you kind of lull them to sleep. I mean, do it. Take your shots when they're there. Don't clam up. Don't shy away when it comes to a big game situation, a big situation in the game. And then feed Monty. I don't want to see Cordero in on 4th and 1. I don't want to see Cordero in on 3rd and 4. I want to see Cordero mixed in here and there throughout the game, not in every situation where a big running back is needed. David Montgomery leads the league in broken tackles. He has more success converting on 4th down, on 3rd down on a run than anybody on your team. David Montgomery needs to be utilized. I don't know why they shy away. I don't know why. I don't understand is it Matt Nagy has his guys and then there's the rest of the Chicago Bears or what? But David Montgomery needs to be fed. And you know what? That goes too for Riley Ridley. I want to see Riley Ridley out today because, let's face it. You've talked about this guy so much. I know he ended up in Matt Nagy's doghouse. For what reasons? I believe it was he challenged the coaching staff on what he was doing. And I think that landed him in the doghouse. But to be honest with you, I need to see Riley Ridley out there along with, like I said, feed Monty. Use your playmakers. You have them for a reason. If you're not going to use a guy like Riley Ridley, why the hell is he there? Why don't you cut him and find an offensive lineman to help you out? Because this hoarding of talent and then not using them because you're trying to, I don't know if you're playing, if you're trying to teach them or coddle them along the way. They need to show if they can play right here, right now. They made it to the NFL for a reason. Let them play.
Wow, yeah. Riley Ridley has been the enigma of this team, and Bears fans often fall in love with the those last few receivers that make the roster or do something impressive in the preseason, like Tanner Gentry and the list goes on and on and on. Devin Aromashodu, he had a career game against the Vikings, and then of course he disappeared.
Yeah.
So yeah, but Ridley came out of college noted for his exceptional route running. And last year, when we heard about ineffective routes being run or routes not run correctly, and then we heard about it again this year when we finally saw Nagy get pissed. In a press conference, even though they won the game against Tampa, he says, we've got to, if it calls for 7 yards, you can't cut it off in 5. You can't extend it out to 9. It's got to be 7 yards. You got to be where you're supposed to be in order for the ball to get out on time. And of course, getting the ball out on time is crucial with the ineffective offensive line play we've had. So I'm surprised we haven't seen Ridley earlier. I was surprised that last year we didn't see Ridley. I was really expecting Miller to get benched last year and be inactive. And I think that would actually do Miller some good, is if he's the one that's running these routes ineffectively, sit him down for a week and say, dude, this is what we got to do. If you're not going to learn, you're going to have to learn by watching.
If I could just cut you off, Mike, that's absolutely right. And there's no, you don't hold players accountable. I'm not talking about jumping down a player's throat. I don't think you need to do that to a grown man all the time. I mean, laying it out the way it is. You don't do your job. You miss assignments consistently. You're gonna sit your ass on the bench. You're gonna have to watch. You're gonna have to figure it out for yourself on the bench in practice and prove yourself again. I need to see the next man up mentality that this team. They talked about that kind of thing. I believe last year and the year before is having a next man up mentality. Well, why don't you have the next man up mentality this year? Why don't you have it? Why don't you have a faith in the next man up this year?
Well, we'll see if Ridley makes the field today in about an hour and 10 minutes. We've got 2 segments left. We got to get to them because we got like 5 minutes. History corner. The Bears and the Titans. They've been playing since the I think early 70s when Tennessee was actually the Houston Oilers. They moved up to Tennessee several years ago. Probably many people listening to this show and watching it on YouTube don't even know that the Tennessee Titans actually, in fact, used to be the Houston Oilers. The Bears and the Titans are 6-6 all time, but the Bears have won their last 4 of the last 6 games against Tennessee. The last time they won was 8 years ago in Tennessee. And if you're a Bears fan, you know all too well that was the peanut punch game.
Oh, yeah.
Charles Tillman forced 4 fumbles in that game. The Bears recovered 3. The other one went out of bounds. Urlacher had a pick 6. Devin Hester had a punt return that came all the way back inside the 10-yard line. Jay Cutler threw for 3 touchdowns. Matt Forte ran for over 100 yards and a touchdown. And the Bears absolutely stomped the Tennessee Titans 51-20. Wouldn't it be sweet to see something like that?
I would hope. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them because, I mean, they do have some explosive guys, some guys that can make a play. It's just you don't see it a lot. You don't see it consistently, and I think that's because they don't pay attention to the little intricacies of the game. They don't do the little things well. So it's hard to consistently beat somebody downfield or consistently hit big plays when you're not focused on the small nuances of each and every assignment. But for me, I would hope that they could get off this night and start scoring some points, because you're going to need it today. If Tennessee gets off to a running start, and I'm pun intended. I mean, you're gonna be in for a long game. Maybe not a long game, but you'll see, just like in the Rams game, you'll see a worn Bears defense late in the third into the fourth quarter. And if the offense can't muster up anything, this team's gonna, I feel like it'll implode this game. This game is bigger than I've been hearing. It really is. This is a turning point game for both teams. If you could win, if you could muster out a win today in a slugfest that I think it's going to be, you're right back in the conversation. The title change, and it could change for both teams. The narrative could change for both teams today if they find success the way I think they can. And for the success will come on the ground for the Tennessee Titans, and for the Bears, you're gonna have to challenge them with your defense. Put pressure on them. You're gonna have to challenge them, and that's defense and offense.
Well, so who do you got for today?
All right, so pick is in. The pick is in, and for me, like I said, I think it's going to be a slugfest. I feel like it's going to come down to a late third quarter score, and then if the Bears can go ahead and hold them in the fourth and muster up at least a touchdown or a field goal, I have the Bears winning 23-13.
God, I hope you're right. I'm banking on the Bears' inability to score touchdowns. I have the Bears scoring 26 points, so 2 touchdowns, 4 field goals, holding the Titans to 17 points. And I've got the Bears in a close one, but they're actually a 6-point underdog going into today's games, but I have them prevailing 26-17. So let's hope that we're right. Last week we were right. We ended up both picking the Saints. I hope the Bears get back on track, because the Bears have to play Minnesota next week. So that becomes a must win, because Green Bay plays the hapless Jacksonville Jaguars. But then they have to go down to play the Colts down in Indianapolis in a noon game Sunday while the Bears are enjoying their bye week. And then the Bears travel to Green Bay for a November 29th. So that's Sunday night game in Lambeau Field. So they could end up, hopefully, they're both there with 3 losses. And whoever wins that game that Sunday night has an inside track for the division. And before we leave, Ivan, I just want to tell everybody, starting a week from Tuesday at 7 o'clock, we have the Halitech Hall Show, which has been a podcast ever since May of 2019. But Ivan is not my new co-host on the Halitech Hall Show, and we will be broadcasting right from this YouTube station live. You can also catch us streaming live on Facebook.com/Halitech Hall, as well as Facebook.com SportsZone Chicago. So you can catch us in 3 different spots. Our first guest of the new edition of the Halitech Hall Show will be the editor-in-chief from Windy City Gridiron, Lester Wiltfong Jr. So come and start joining us not only on Sundays on game day, but also Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock for the Halitech Hall Show, which is just basically an expanded format of this 30-minute show. We usually run about 75 to 90 minutes. And with our guests, we've got a lot of great things to talk about. So that will do us for this edition of the barely pregame show. And with that, bear down.
Bear down, guys.
I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TixSplits?
Who?
TixSplits. They don't gouge you with crazy fees. The price they advertise is the price you pay, plus a small delivery fee.
Never pay service fees again. Go to TIXBLITZ.com today. TixSplits.com. Guaranteed seats, low prices. That's TixSplits.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere.